number 5, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh!
Lucky number
Grand
5.
rising, everybody, and welcome to the Coffee Diaries, number 5, Ade.
Sorry.
How
number
are you today?
5. I
Number
hate
5.
when I like when I go to edit these or watch them and I cough and it just sounds so annoying to me when I cough.
So you edit it out?
No. Oh, actually, no, I have. I have lowered it before.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ade. In London here, it's, 8 p.m., dark, gloomy, but spirits are high, and as always, still learning.
Still learning.
Still learning.
Yeah, and dark is good.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day, weren't we?
Yeah.
Maybe seeing the darkness in a different way.
Well, why don't you, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, so often we've been told of the dark as being something dangerous and scary, but in actuality, the trees, the flowers, the fruit, it grows from the darkness in the soil. And if we look at space at night, it's in the darkness that we can see the stars and the moon. And this space is infinite, and it can hold all things. The infinite space holds all the planets, the stars, the moons. So if we can change our perception of how we describe the darkness, and maybe sitting that, and allow then for our emotions to come up and not call them evil or bad or negative, but just see them as they are. If fear arises, let's look at it rather than push it away, and rather than call it something bad or something we don't want to look at. Just see it for as it is. If there's frustration, anxiety, consciousness can hold this space, and that which we are is untouched by it. It cannot be harmed or hurt by it, who we are at our nature. So maybe just look at darkness in a different way. And the yin and yang symbol is the light and the dark. We cannot have one without the other. And then from there, we're not pushing away emotions and feelings. We are looking at them with a kind of maturity and wisdom and seeing them for as they are. No longer allowing these feelings to control us. The egoic monkey mind, which is always on a step ladder, going round and round. Let's see you. Because I guess what is fear? Fear is just a label for an energy in the body. Anxiety is a word for an energy in the body. Can we allow ourselves to be still for long enough to see it rather than push it away? I think we've grown up, especially as men, denying these things. So if you're frightened, say, no, oh, I'm tough, I'm strong. No, I'm not afraid. Jealousy, no, it doesn't come up for me. Anxiety, no, I can do it. What about saying, yes? And there's that book, isn't there? What's that book called? Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Feel the fear.
And do it anyway, yeah. There's a book, I don't know who wrote it. But
Pulp Fiction?
It may have been Star Wars, something from Yoda.
Yeah. Oh, here's Danielle. Soames.
Hi, Daniel.
Yeah. Yeah. So feeling the fear. Yeah, and there was some fear coming up within myself. I was hearing my heartbeat, and I was saying, "Oh, there's my heartbeat. Hello, is it Danielle Soames? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Okay.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it, Adair.
I mean, I've only known you for how many years?
I don't know. We won't disclose that information, but I was roaming on the wrong browser, and then I got booted off. So I was like, oh man, I set my alarm for 3:05. So hello.
Grand rising, Danielle.
Thank you. Say go to you both. That means that's hello in Mohawk.
Can you say that again, please?
Say go.
Say go.
Say go. Yeah.
Say go. Say go.
It's like, are you going? Say go.
Yeah.
You going on. So yeah, I was hoping to share your podcast with my friends, but it's only on your friends group, so I couldn't share it. It's not public. Is there a reason for that?
It should be. I'll make it public if you go to my page and share it from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, can you do that now, or is it too?
You have to make it public on your page first.
Yeah.
And then I could share it.
So I did that.
But people can come back, right? They can come back and see it. Let me see right now.
Yeah, I made it.
I'm going to do it right now.
So we were talking about
there.
We were talking about listening to the body and letting whatever emotions are there to be there. And looking at even the idea of darkness, looking at it in a different way, darkness being that which is, the unknown, the birthplace. And Ron was talking about that, and I was feeling nervous as that was going on, and so I kind of, whenever he's talking about something, I'm usually experiencing it firsthand in real time. So
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I just got back from Ghostbuster 2, and there was some darkness in that too.
Ghostbuster
maybe
2.
A different
the film?
A different type of the film. I went to an early showing of it.
Yeah. How was it?
But it's in a box, the darkness is in a box and it's let loose. It's pretty entertaining. It's pretty good. I recommend it. There are some scary elements. I don't know about kids that are under 12, but now it seems like kids really, they can encompass a lot more than when I was a kid. Although I say that, and then I saw, what was it, Poltergeist, which terrified me for years. I think I was only 8 or something. I was so scared. But yeah, so what are you guys talking about this morning or this afternoon? I don't know what time it is. I honestly thought yesterday. I thought it was Friday, and I wished. Or wait, yesterday was Friday, right? Wait, what is today?
Today is Saturday.
Okay, so I guess it was this morning.
Okay.
I gotta say, with the whole COVID thing, my whole time lapse is gone. I have no idea what time it is, and working remote and living life through the screen.
Yeah.
I don't even know where I am half the time. But anyway, I was saying to
What's time anyway?
Exactly. I said to the Uber driver, I'm like, oh, I hope you had a terrific day yesterday. And he was like, what was yesterday? I'm like, well, it was Thursday. And he's like, no, it was Friday. I'm like, today's Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's still Saturday. Man, this day's long.
It is one big moment.
No, but it's a little strange, like getting back into the usual daily grind, Manhattan's a ghost town right now, and there's like no one around.
Yeah.
Which is nice, but when you're used to the hustle and bustle, and then last weekend it was really busy. It was really busy. Yeah, so it's nice. I live by the park. I live by Astoria Park in Queens, and that's been a real place of peace for me. And I live by the water, so seeing the boats and seeing the sunsets and the sunrises, it's so peaceful and centers me a lot. It was a really great change to leave the city. I lived smack dab in the middle for years, so it was a nice change, and it really allowed me to just kind of be one with myself and be centered and do a lot more creative stuff, which is exciting. How about you? How have you all been handling yourselves during all of this crazy time? How do you center yourself and make yourself, at peace?
I scratch and claw.
Oh.
Well, hanging on to the ledge, but yeah, I go to nature. I make noises. I like making noise. I just go, and I tap myself, and then I kind of make a song from it, and then I do that. I need to make sounds and go out in nature.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Do you ever find yourself like right afterwards you've discovered you have your own little group that's surrounded you to like come, or no, people are like walking away and letting you be? You start your own following?
No, I do it in nature, and nobody's come, and I'm usually facing the opposite direction. I'm facing a little stream, but I've always had there's this fear of the unknown, people, and these insecurities that come up. But now I'm starting to, at the end of it, I'll turn around and maybe I'll do some things turning towards people. So I'm starting to direct outward to others and to open up that sort of channel, to the heart,
nice.
or to whatever.
Yeah. I find that when you do that, when you allow yourself to open up, people kind of latch on to that, and then they want to be a part of it, they gravitate towards that positivity. And then you just have to be careful of your own time and space and allowing others in, because there's a lot of people that need positivity right now.
Yeah.
And it's good to be in that space, but just from a friend perspective, just be like cautious of all those people coming at you,
Yeah.
Yeah. I went through a hard time last year. That was rough, and I was along with a lot of other people that just didn't know how everything was going to turn out, and still we don't know. But things they've improved a lot, and I think that change of atmosphere really helped, because no matter where you go, you're going to be in your own sense of anxiety or fear, whatever you're going through at that time. You're going to be traveling with it, and then when you change that pace and pattern and know when to ask for help or to get some guidance and friendship from others, then things can change around. And I think that's the sense of hope that a lot of people need. They need a lot of hope, you know? But anyway, I don't know how that came out. You just kind of bring that out of me. What's going on there?
No, that was great.
Deep
Thank you.
thoughts.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
oh, it's so nice to meet you. By the way, this is great. I forgot that you were over the pond.
Yes. I'm in London. And it's
You're in London.
8 p.m. here on. What time is it? 20 past 8 right now.
Okay. And you're faring well over there.
Yeah, it's going well. I mean, so of course, like anywhere, time has been challenging for everybody.
Yeah.
I was living abroad last year and I came back here.
Okay.
So I'm here in London. But I think this time has given opportunities, and I've done things that maybe I wouldn't have had the time to do if things were as they are. So it's been, in some ways, a great blessing as well.
Yeah.
The people I've met, the things I've done, just, being allowed to go into things has been learning how to use Zoom. And start projects which, beforehand I would never have dreamed that I could have done.
Yeah.
That's been extraordinary as well. And, to do things like this with Ade, where we're learning about things, meeting new people. I'm meeting you today to find out, to find out things, and see where we can go.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. It really, in ways, has been a blessing. I know, so I took in my mother. My mother was in assisted living, and I was scared for her life every day. And she has Alzheimer's, so it was a difficult task to change my life around because I was more focused on the arts and just doing my own thing for so long. But I really wanted to spend time with her. I wanted to take time off. It happened, but not in the way that I had expected it. And actually, now things are more settled. But what I was going to say about meeting new people, I've met a lot of caregivers, because people who could handle stuff and other people who couldn't. And I don't fault them for it. Everyone's got their threshold of what they can manage, and not everyone is built for Alzheimer's and the gremlin that comes within. But so you just got to go with the flow, and it really is a lot of that. Go with the flow. But I studied teaching, and in teaching, you have to manage and discipline, and it's a lot like teaching when you have a parent who has Alzheimer's, or anyone who's a loved one that has Alzheimer's. You have to kind of get on their level. You can't expect them to get on your level. And that's logistically and theologically. So if you want the other person to get up, you need to actually physically get to where they are and help them up. And then also just kind of think about their struggles and what they can understand and not understand, and go to that level of learning. So it's been an adjustment, but luckily I found someone who's great, and I have a really good friend who helps out too. And she's known my mom for years. So I'm thankful for that. And I'm also thankful for the time that I've had with her. It's been hard, especially hard to do projects, self-focused projects, because a lot of this disease is much like taking care of children. Your life is not your own. And so you have to think about others first. But the beauty of Zoom is that you have flexibility, and you have this opportunity to do different projects, like you said. And me too. I've done things I never thought I would do that were possible, and meet people too. And also see how many people really just get it. They've all been struggling in their own way. and you see the humanity in others. So it's nice. It's nice. You know, my mom, her first language is Mohawk. And being that it's at the brink end of Native American Heritage Month, and yesterday was the official Indigenous Peoples Day, which was coined by Obama, I believe, in I want to say it was 2014 was when it happened, but I might be wrong on that date, so don't quote me. But my mother, I took her to there was a museum opening up, the Native American Museum, downtown, part of the Smithsonian in Manhattan. And the Grand Chief of Ganawage, which is where she's from, Ganawage, Quebec, it's about 10 miles south of Montreal, was there. And we were looking at this exhibit. It was Native New York. And we're walking through, and my mom's noticing things that are in her language. And my friend says, "Hey, isn't this the town where your mom's from?" The Grand Chief overhears, turns around and starts speaking to my mom in like quick Mohawk language. And my mom turns around and responds in Mohawk. And it's just so beautiful to see that interaction, that kind of thing happen. Plus, my mom's an elder. So, like, a lot of the elders are dying off. And the language is really something that they want to preserve. In the communities, and also that's something that was lost and like culturally and through the years that's been lost. And language is, you know, that's how we identify ourselves, is by the language you speak. So I love to bring her back to things that kind of click, and she's been going back like in memories of childhood days. So bringing back to like the community and to language is really important. So things around Manhattan, whenever they have exhibits that might expose like language or culture of Native heritage, I try and get my mom there, but it's hard. Mobility is a little difficult. So there are some programs that are online that there's a program through Arts and Minds. They do, I don't know if you've heard of it, they do a collaboration with museums and also with elders and caregivers, and they try and bring those programs to people in their homes. So it's nice. It's really nice. But like, you know, things around like classical music or theater with the stairs, and anything with stairs is really hard. So I try and bring it back to her at home as best as possible. And also nature, just like Ade was saying, nature, when I go on nature walks, and I mean, I call them nature walks, but really they're just walks to like get out. For me, they're nature walks because I'm in nature, but I bring back pieces of nature back to my mom to kind of show her like, oh, look, the leaves are changing, and look how the pretty colors, and we can create something if you want. And she just loves the details of things.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Is there any Mohawk songs that you sing or that you sing to your mom?
No, I make up songs a lot of times. I just like, I'll riff with her a little bit, and she loves Andre Bocelli, so if I put him on, she's like in a mesmerized state. That's her secret boyfriend. But and then swing music and that kind of thing. She doesn't. My mother grew up in Ganawage, but there's two aspects of the reservation. There's one that is called Longhouse, in Mohawk Reservation. If you're Longhouse, that means that you grew up knowing about culture and tradition. And she didn't grow up like that so much. Doesn't mean that she doesn't have aspects of it, but it just means that she didn't follow the creator in that way. So then there was the Catholic Church that came onto the reservations, much the 1600s when the Jesuits came. That's how my mom grew up. She grew up with the Catholic Church, but the service was done in Mohawk. And she has a Bible that is written all in Mohawk. So, I mean, that's like a beautiful thing to see, but it's also sad too, because you're hearing a lot about these kids from boarding schools and that they're, I don't know if you guys want to go there, but just a little snippet. In Canada, there were a lot of children that were found at a boarding school, and their bodies were found underneath this land, which used to be a school. And part of that is boarding school is to strip the culture from the kids so that they could be assimilated into the white culture. You know, a lot of kids lost their hair. They had hair is very significant in Native culture. It marks your beauty, marks your unity to your family. It marks a lot of different aspects of the culture with strength. And you normally cut your hair when someone passes. But these kids had to cut their hair to kind of assimilate. And so part of like the Catholic church being on the reservation, it reminds me of that, you know, and so my mother grew up in that way. And that was not that long after a lot of that, the assimilation happened. And it happened up until 1996 was, I think, the last boarding school that existed. So not that long ago, you know, you think about this and our history. So anyway, so the culture for her is kind of mixed. For me, when I went to the reservation at 14, that's when I latched on to Native heritage. I experienced my family for the first time. It was like new eyes. And then I got really involved in Native politics and membership and trying to help other Indians come together and be educated and thrive. And then through membership and friendship, I became more of a leader in my community and someone that could help break stereotypes. So that's been one of my missions, is breaking stereotypes. And I'm actually working on a project that is focused on that as well, breaking stereotypes. But what does it mean, you know, to be traditional, right? So anyway, I do follow some things like sage is very important to me. When I smudge, smudging out, I use sage to burn and smudge out bad feelings. And then, like, say I went through some kind of trauma, want to get rid of that sense of trauma. So I use sage to smudge it out. But a lot of that is cleansing my mind and my spirit. And I do that with my mother too. I'll smudge her. So she had really bad night sleep or not feeling good, and she'll let me. My husband doesn't like the smell, but whatever.
Yeah, my kids
we
don't
have
like
windows.
it either.
Oh, they don't like it?
No.
Yeah. It's a particular scent, right? Yeah. So, I mean, so that's, but unfortunately I don't have a song. There are songs, but I don't have a Mohawk song. I only have Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for you.
Ron, did you have any other, you had some questions, I think.
Yeah. So can you first tell us the importance of elders in the community?
Yeah, and elders are culture bearers, and they hold on to traditions and language and teachings and lessons that are carried on. They say 7 generations, right? It takes 7 generations to pass it down. So elders are also the eldest woman in the community is called a clan's mother. And there are different clans that make up each nation. So I'm Wolf Clan. In my Mohawk family, there's Turtle Clan, Wolf Clan, Bear Clan, Snipe, and there's also Deer Clan. And the eldest person is normally the grandmother, or the clan's mother is the eldest woman that she's like a grandmother, and she selects the chief of the tribe. But the grand chief is someone who is elected, so that's different. There's the chief of the tribe and chief of the clan, and then there's also grand chief who speaks on behalf of government officials and speaks on behalf of the nation. There's 4 different communities of Mohawks. There's Ganawage, where my mom's from. There's Akwesasne, which is in the United States. There's Oka, and then there's Ganasakte. And Ganasakte and Oka are both in the Canadian area. So yeah, I mean, elders are very well respected. They often tell the stories that are taught. Most of the stories have a moral. There's always a moral to the story, like old fables. And that's why we have storytelling time, which is, it's a grand time for everyone to listen and to learn. And that's how manners and all of that should be raised up. But again, there are not a lot of elders left. So when you see an elder who is a native elder, it's kind of like, and especially now, nobody sees anybody because everyone's staying at home. So, see someone out, you're like, wow, you're out. But actually, after you're 50, you're considered an elder. There's a thing called the 49er Club. They make a joke about it at powwows, which are like dance celebrations that people go to, cultural gatherings. They call it the 49er Club. So then you're considered an elder, but that's if you tell your age. You can keep it a secret. Right?
So what is the significance behind naming the clans after animal names?
Yeah, originally those were the animals that were hunted, and where the families, they were separated by the animals that they hunted, and that's how they survived. That was the original sense of it. So, however, I mean, I don't know if people ate wolves. I don't think they ate wolves, but who knows? What I heard is that they're named by the animals that they lived near, and that they either lived near or lived off of. So, yeah, it's not too much more than it.
Yeah.
But if someone has the last, so say I meet a wolf clan that is not Mohawk, but there's Oneida. We could be related. We could be cousins. So I always found that to be really interesting. So like the whole thing about it, when people are trying to find a match, you don't want them to be the same clan because you could be a cousin. You don't want them to have the same last name, or you have to go through the whole like lineage to see how you're related, if you're related, and most likely you are. So you're going to end up marrying cousin if you want to be a family anyway. Cousin loving.
Yeah.
They call it. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice for you guys to invite me on. This is fun just to hang out with you.
Yeah.
What is I don't even know anything about this podcast. Wait, how long you been around?
Like 2 months, has it been?
Oh, okay, good. All right. If you said 2 years, I would have felt really bad.
We're fairly new. Yeah.
Okay, good. How to really hope.
Yeah.
I think the aim was, I think when Eddie and I started, just to have conversations about things that are coming up here and now, things that we're living through, things that we're interested in. And one of the reasons that it's great to have you here, I'm really interested in First Nations history. I was in Australia and I met some elders in the community there from the First Nation. And I think there is so much untapped knowledge, so much untapped wisdom that we need to return to, but also at the same time bring it forward, and
Yeah.
to and to and to really get back in with that. So I was watching a post the other day, and it was about an elder. I think he's opening a school to teach Mohawk. And
Oh,
I always thought it would be extraordinary if it became Mohawk, Cherokee, wherever the nation was from, that to be the national language of that area. That to
yeah.
be language that's spoken in every school in that particular area. So
Yeah.
if you're in Chicago, what's the nation that lived there? What was their language? And that language would be taught in school.
Mm.
I always thought
Yeah.
that would be an amazing way forward. And then that would take us back to seeing the land in a different way, seeing the water in a different way, seeing how we live in a different way. And that as well, it will also bring community. So First Nations, America, Australia, Hawaii, Erotoa, I think, which was New Zealand, Africa, and bring it all together and let's see a new way of living. And I think that would be extraordinary.
Yeah. No, I think it would be. Well, if you go to Mohawk communities, the street signs are in Mohawk, and in the surrounding areas close by, it's Mohawk. But a lot of the kids, they know three languages. They know Mohawk, French, and English because they live so close to Montreal. So if the kids stay in the community and are educated on the community, then they'll learn Mohawk growing up. Now there's a big immersion, language immersion that's happening, and a push for it. Um, but if you don't live in the community like me, I'm trying to find out how I can learn the language because um, I don't know how to read it phonetically. If I knew how to read it phonetically, it would be more sustainable. And also, it sounds different depending if I'm reading Mohawk and from Canada as a Mohawk from United States, because the G's are like D's, the K's are like G's. So it's like, or no, K's are like D's. So like for instance, you have Kateri. Saint Kateri is the first saint who is a Mohawk saint. She became a Mohawk saint back in, let's see, I was in Italy, so probably 2014. She was coined Mohawk saint. Her full name is Kateri de Gaguita, which means who crosses the river. So Kateri de Gaguita. And they just call her Saint Kateri. But I had directed a play about the saint, and that's how I learned a lot about the Jesuits. I was working at the museum, the National Museum of American Indian, and in the Haudenosaunee Discovery Room. And one day, a Jesuit priest walks in, and I say, "Oh my gosh, I'm directing a play about a Jesuit priest. I mean, the Jesuit times of St. Kateri, and I was invited to. There's a monastery in the middle of Manhattan that nobody knows about, but it's right there in a building." And I got to see firsthand journals of Jesuit encounters with Mohawks from like way back when, which was so cool. It was really cool to have that research. But with the pronunciations, everything was kind of Yankee eyes, you very Yankee, the way that the pronunciations were written out, because it's hard. Languages, they can be easy if you're used to hearing it. It's just about the dialect. A lot of actors can take on dialects no problem because you're learning about them. You tune your ear to it. But if you're just, you're a layman and you're learning dialects, it can be a little bit difficult. But being in London, then you were studying abroad. There's so many dialects in England as well. People don't know about. Whenever I'm pretending that I'm British, I sound like I'm Cockney because I think I'm thinking about Holly Golightly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's very different.
very different. It's not, I'm
That's not that, yes.
downplaying. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, what you hear as London in films is very different to
Yes.
to it's spoken. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But Australian Aboriginals are, I mean, their plight is very, very similar
Mm.
to Native Americans, and I think people don't really recognize that. I used to work with a woman who had a theater company that was with Australian Aboriginals, and we would have guest artists fly to the United States and work with them on their plays, and it was fascinating to hear the stories and also to see the struggles and how similar the struggles were and are,
Yes.
land rights and eh, it's it's easy to get bogged down and sad about it if you allow it, but I think one of my main missions is to help people rise and to try and not overcome but to embrace what we have and then make it something more by not assimilating but adapting so that we can enrich our youth and keep them going with with positivity and to move forward, because there's a lot of depression that is on the reservations, and also um, a lot of oppression, and people have self-doubt, and that's kind of ingrained from feeling like kicked down to the curb, where people are told they're no good, and now it's like, okay, yeah, you are good, so there's land acknowledgements that are coming out, and that's been the past 3 years a push for land acknowledgements, mainly in nonprofit world. I see it. I didn't see it when I went to an off-Broadway show. I don't think it's on Broadway, but I haven't been to Broadway in so long. So, but I know that there's a push for nonprofits to have land acknowledgements start their shows and to start programs as kind of like an implement to acknowledge the people who were here before. So that's good. I mean, what do people think about it? You have a varied amount of opinions. You're always going to have a varied amount of opinions. But the point is that it's happening. And at least there's something positive that can come from it. And one is that we're still here. We're still here.
Andy and I were speaking about that a while ago. We're still here. And did you read about, I don't know how widely it was shown in the USA, Standing Rock?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Standing Rock. I had a lot of friends who were
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
And I was reading about it, and all the nations coming together to fight against this pipeline being built.
Yeah.
And I thought even that was an extraordinary moment because there was connections worldwide. And like, as you said, the First Nations in Australia, and there are over 250 of these First Nations with different languages and cultures. And you go to Hawaii, and you go to New Zealand, and you go to Africa, and you go to these places, and then I think when we look at this, it enriches us as human beings, all of us, to learn about these cultures, to learn about their ways of being, in how they are, not wanting them to adapt to this Western way, but okay, then you're as you are, and that's enough. You don't have to get more. And I think that's an extraordinary thing. And just learning about that way of being is being in touch with nature, is being in touch with the environment, is being in touch with human beings. And one of the topics of today's show was talking with you, learning about Mohawk culture and language, and also about how do we bring meditation out of the studio or out of your room into the world. And I think connecting with First Nations is a really important part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to bring it. I work in the theater, and I also work on a marketing team for a law firm now. That's my day job. And one really cool thing that there's a lot of cool things happening, but one cool thing that they had me do was to plan their Native American Heritage Month outing. It's like, okay. So they said, hey, we see that you worked at the museum. So how did I bring it into them? Well, I got in touch with the museum. I said, can we go and see the new exhibit? And then there was another guy who works there. They weren't doing tours, but we brought a group there. And he and I kind of riffed off of each other about our knowledge. So I would say one thing, give little tidbits here and there. And then he would say, yeah, it's a lot like my culture, because he was Taino. And so we had a different point of view. And also, like, he worked there at the museum doing a lot of the research for that exhibit. I knew about this exhibit like years before they were supposed to have it open, and I was part of helping them launch it as well. So both of us were able to incorporate together, and it was cool because what he had to offer, it just blended really well with what I had to offer. And then it seemed like it was planned, but it wasn't. It's just that because we had such similarities in both the exhibit and similarities in culture, like we were both culture bearers in our own right, giving our knowledge and sharing it with folks who really didn't know too much, but were curious and open-minded, and they enjoyed themselves. It was a positive thing. There's also something that I'm bringing, since they want to do some work with their women's group. They have a women's initiative, and I'm going to bring the topic of murdered and missing Indigenous women to them. So that's something that now people are starting to learn about, and unfortunately, there's like a what do you call it? It's like a stop that happens when with the law. When a crime happens on reservations and the reservation wants to be sovereign, the government doesn't want to intervene because they're like, well, you're sovereign. However, if it's a crime against a person, it becomes a human crime, a humanity issue, so then it should be the government steps in because that's a human issue. So then that kind of bears a question of, well, where do we lie in that equation? Aren't we human? Don't we deserve also the same kind of dignity as anyone else who has been missing or murdered? So that's a crime that's not solved. So now there's this push for awareness and also a push for help, which is different than in the past, because in the past, sovereignty and government and law all were supposed to be separate along the lines. But the reason I say that this is good for blending into my life is because now I can add some value into the job that I have. And I always felt like, oh, I have these side jobs. What value is that going to bring? But if you can leverage your like survival job or a job that you have in addition to your arts, then that's beneficial and that's doing something, because my arts has always been about bridging the gap between non-native and native world, and also educating the public about stereotypes and breaking those stereotypes so that it could be a positive educational push, not just within native communities to add opportunities, but also to have an understanding with people that might be curious and open-minded.
I think it would be just, it's great having Indigenous Peoples Day or Black History Month, but these days are every day. Every day is Indigenous Peoples Day, because that's history. And that's how it is. And I think, or Black History Month is every month. and to
Yes.
bring it into everyday history lessons, bring it into everyday conversations. And imagine we're walking down the road anywhere, and you're in America somewhere, and
Yeah.
just the name of the road is the name of the tribe that was there. It's everyday conversation. And
Yes.
it's learned in every school. The language is learned in every school. And it's just
Yes.
how it is, because it's not a side note just to look at 1 month or 1 day a year, but it's history being taught because it is the story of that land.
Yes. I agree. I agree. Well, then we have to have more guest artists who are guest teachers who know the language to come in and to bring it. That would definitely be helpful. There are some language lessons that are independently done in the city in Manhattan, um, but it's not widely known. You have to kind of be in the know to find out about it. um, I don't think that they're through the library yet, but I don't know. I mean, New York is a little bit different than the rest of the world, right? Like as far as things that are brought here. You know, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I was born, and I moved around a lot, and I could tell you this much: like a lot of the education I received in New York, and also the opportunities that are available here, were not available to me in Atlanta, and they weren't available to me like in Virginia. Um, but the school systems are a little bit more progressive, and unfortunately, a lot of I know Ade wanted me to talk about education, um, and I used to teach in the schools, but that was a while back. It was in 2012, so I don't know what the schools are like now. I don't think they've changed much, but I know that there are educational books that are coming out and they're made in Texas um, that are kind of wiping history out of the books. This is what I hear is happening, and but I don't know firsthand if that is happening. I can tell you this much: when I was student teacher at an elementary school in the Bronx, um, they had the school go to see Uncle's what was it, Uncle Sawyer, Tom Sawyer. We saw Tom Sawyer in the theaters, which is so racist. And they had one character was a drunk Indian, and the kids were laughing at the drunk Indian. And I thought to myself, oh no, 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 no. We've got to unpack this. We've got to talk about this. We cannot leave the kids just hanging like this is just how everything is. It's okay. And it really bothered me. So I asked the teacher, the main teacher instructor, if I could bring a lesson plan the next day. It wasn't in our agenda, but I was like, I'll just create one. Let me just work on this to create. He said, absolutely. To kind because it wasn't something they were going to talk about. Their questionnaire about Tom Sawyer was just what they saw, wasn't about what they thought. So I said, let's talk about what they think, and also compare stereotypes that they've seen to the play and also to the cartoons that are out there and to like mascots that are out there, and let's see what they think about it and how they feel about it. And so I did, and the kids thought he was a bad guy, the Indian character, and they thought it was funny, the stereotypes that I brought in, um, that they've seen on like Simpsons and Disney and the Chief, with the buck teeth, and so they thought those were funny and they were laughing at them, and I said, now I introduced them to me, and then I brought family photos, different pictures of family, and I asked them like, what do you see? Who do you think this is? And how do you feel? And then I let them know that a lot of people find it hurts their feelings because they didn't really understand the word offense. So it hurts their feelings, and you're laughing. It's not how everyone is. And you just know that this is a story that you're seeing. And it's not something that is happening all the time. And know that when you're laughing at someone because of how they look, how does that make them feel? And if it were turned on you, a mirror, and they're laughing at you, how would you feel? So just start to think about the context behind the humor, and just know that these are images, which is called a stereotype. So I was trying to give them like, what is a stereotype? What is an archetype? And because they don't understand those things. These things are learned.
Yeah.
All that stuff is learned. Hate's learned, you know? It's not something that they have to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Danielle, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really
thanks.
Yeah, just lovely to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and I wish you both the best of your journey today, and
Thank
also
you.
for Sunday tomorrow. You still have another day.
Yeah.
Before the work week. All right. Thank you, guys.
How do we say goodbye in Mohawk?
Newa.
Newa. Okay.
Newa. Newa is thank you, and Ona is see you later. Ona.
Ona.
Okay. Ona.
Thank you, Ade, for
that was
introducing to Danielle. I think it's important to have these conversations and to talk. And she spoke about, you know, I guess the importance of now telling our own stories rather than relying on stories told through one set of eyes. Create our own stories and show a different way, a different perspective, an idea of who we really are.
Yeah, and I think part of that is collectively, you know, culturally, and sort of individually. Like, what is my story? What is Ron's story? What is your direct, you know, experience? And
speaking about, you know, I guess the main topic today was bringing the meditation out of the studio, the hall, or where you are, because oftentimes I think we can be in these satsangs, in these groups, and we feel this energy, we feel alive, we feel we got it, and we're surrounded by people who've been doing the meditation with us, and we go out into the world and bang, the first thing hits you. And we can go back to the old ways of being, and I think it's time now to take this understanding into our everyday relationships. Take this understanding into our work, into our projects, into our creativity. This knowing of who you are into every conversation. It's not to be left back there. You know, like the old adage was, people would go to church for an hour, then come out and carry on doing what they were doing beforehand. What about taking this and not leaving it there, but this understanding which you've gained hasn't left you. It's not back there in the yoga studio. It's with you and it can't leave you.
Yeah.
But to then let it come through in our everyday actions.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I think first come into like for me in real time, feeling anxiety, feeling the vibrations in the body. And I'm going through this now partly because that's what I'm feeling. Vibrations, what I call anxiety, vibration in the body. The thought, what will people think? The thought, oh no, I'm going to disappoint myself. The thought of what others would think, and noticing also the tapes, the program. the threat to some image. So for me, I feel like it's important, to add this here. It's not even important is not the correct word. It is real time in the conversation. And I think a lot of what we see going on in the world is avoiding this step, avoiding being seen. And it seems like the program is set up so that we won't look. So that, no, look at this, distract yourself from this. And that way of, it's so ingrained on such a subtle level and almost like a DNA level, because my ancestors have experienced it, my parents have experienced it. And so this is the program. And as you said, when we began, stopping that program, putting a stop, not passing it along to other generations. So it starts here, and even at risk of whatever anybody feels or thinks about me, or thinks about whatever, the image, the threat to the image, that's not much of a risk, so, and yeah, go ahead.
Ade, can I ask you a question then? So,
yeah.
In those moments when you feel there, you're alive, you're vibrant, and in these times when thoughts comes to you and you don't recognize it as just a thought, those times, and you see it as it is, and you realize you're not going to let it stop you. What happens then at the other times when you might have the same thought, but this time it grabs you? Because your being is the same. So what's happening in this time when a negative comment will just, you let it slide, have no effect on you, but another day, it attaches.
Yeah.
So what's happening with you in those two different times?
The other time, it's the belief in it feels more true, feels stronger.
Why?
It's almost like memory, like it's there, like it's something that's there. So there's a going back there. And the going back there is another avoidance. of feeling it, of being with the body.
Is it the possibility that on the second occasion when we get triggered by it, that there's something for us to look at, to see what's going on, and not to see it as something negative, but maybe this is an opportunity to see. Maybe it's an opportunity to open up. And we don't even have to go into the origin of it, of where it started. It's just to see it as it is. Because there are times, aren't we, when we can speak and we can chat. And we say, it's just a thought, it's just a feeling, it's so.
Yeah.
And we may have that around a group of people or in the meditation center or in the satsang. So what happens then when we leave that comforted space and we get hit with it? An issue in our everyday life, in our job, in our relationship. Is it possible to center ourselves just as we were in the hall, just as we were in the yoga studio or in the satsang?
Yeah, and just feeling it.
Because then I always thought that doing the meditation practice, or the meditation play is a term I prefer to use, is just the preparation for the real meditation, which is going to happen in your everyday activities. That's the meditation practice. The one in the hall is to prepare you for that. Is the preparation for that. So we don't leave it back in the studio. I feel it, all the chakras rising to right now, and then you go out and then you get hit by this thing. Why not? So I think sometimes, if maybe it's not talked about enough, okay, we're feeling centered here at this moment. Now let's take it into our ordinary activities, when we're shopping, when we're having conversations, when we're traveling, we're working, in our relationships.
And it doesn't have to feel like, it doesn't have to be a doing, an accomplishing, a goal that's set. It could be just like, I'm friggin' feeling sad. I'm, telling, like, if I'm talking to someone, just saying, how are you doing? I'm feeling sad. There's sadness here. There's this thing that I call sadness. I don't know what else to call it,
Yeah.
And for me, it's in this moment, there's been some avoidance of sadness. And I don't have to spiritualize it or make it into a practice or make it into something else or have an excuse for it. Like, bringing the meditation out of the studio and into life is saying, hey, I'm sad. That there's this sadness, there's and breathing. Because if I don't do that, then what else am I doing? I'm creating some sort of thing to put a ribbon or wrap a pile of shit to make it look nice and pretty because I care,
And it's done with the authenticity, isn't it? It's not, oh, let me go out and speak in a nice, soft, eerie voice every time I speak to people and breathe deeply in front of them and take a long pause before I speak. Because that's just that's just fake, isn't it? That's just fake. That's just putting on putting on the costume, isn't it?
Another
putting
costume.
on the spiritual costume and letting my voice go really eerie and breathtaking.
What can I say that sounds
yes
really profound and
yeah.
like how can I kind of even express connecting with my emotions in a way that seems acceptable, and that's why lately part of my meditation is going out in nature and just making noises and just that's my meditation, and this is actually a real pause.
Ade, when you've had those moments in the forest amongst the trees and you feel this connection, what happens when you go back into the town, into the city, and you're confronted by cars and people and streets? What happens? Is it possible to keep that same connection as you're working in your everyday life? So we don't have to keep going back to the forest, which is not that you shouldn't go back. It's great to go there, but take it with you.
Yeah.
Into making your cup of tea. We talked about, wabi sabi as well. Every moment seeing the cracks as beautiful, and so you come out the trees in the forest and you're feeling this way, and somebody says something to you. Can we still hold on to? And it's not even holding on to. It's our true nature. This peace and the stillness, not as a kind of, but let's not make it something that's a concept. Oh yes, we all won our true nature, but actually known in the actuality. So it's not even something you have to hold on to. It's who you are, but somehow gets disturbed by things that happen to us.
Yeah. I would say yes. And one of the things I'm, experiencing now is, as you know, I did sound healing. What is it called? Energy healing with Eleonora. And so like things are opening up, and like now it kind of like hit me. It is kind of so like yeah. It's funny because she did some work on all the chakras, and so I'm just saying that out loud, and bringing that into the world. Is it possible? I think that's the question. And I think yes, it is possible. It's here in this moment. In this moment, it is here. I am here. I am nature. You are nature. Everything is nature. And that is the meditation.
So we answered the question, not only is it possible, it's the actuality of it. So then, can we live it? I think this is the, I might use the word being radical.
Yeah.
You're being radical in your simplicity.
Yeah.
Because it's not that you have to do anything.
Exactly.
You're being radical in just that you're being the way you are. And maybe the world is the one that is how our idea of this world and how we set up these structures are the ones that are deranged, are insane.
Yeah.
So being radical, I guess, is just to have the strength to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, anyone who's gone to school, that's a very challenging thing. Straight away, you're getting hit with, you have to try and be this or that or somebody else. Tougher, braver, more beautiful, be taller, whatever it is. But to be yourself outside of the concepts and ideas that we created, and not speaking through terms and words that we've heard from the guru or the master, but what's coming through Ade.
Yes. That's why I'm so glad we talked a little bit about language today, and because we come into our own language, I think. Yeah. We come into something quite beautiful, because who knows what's going to come up next. And every part of it is life. Every part of it is nature. Every part of it is the universe saying hello, while noticing the program and the survival mechanism, all of that stuff. But like staying in this kind of there's this gentleness about it. There's this kind of fineness. There's this, it's delicate. And
can you go on, Ade? This fineness, this gentleness, this delicacy, can you carry on there?
It is who I am at the essence. It's I just heard my eldest daughter come in, and yeah, so it's interesting. We the face, you notice where the sort of program, the learnt way of hiding can take place in the face. You know.
And what's amazing about what you said was,
it's like a clown. It's like a clown.
Okay.
It's like a clown. That's what it is.
Okay.
That's what it is. We're playing this part. So it's like a clown, and I could smile and say, ah. And then sometimes, sad. and nervous. And mind you, the show is being watched. The show is being watched like a movie on the screen, but it feels real. And there's the pain. Like in the theater, someone getting stabbed and and the actor does such a great job. And the actor needs to get better. It needs medical attention. So it gets the medical attention. We wait till the beginning, middle, conclusion, and does the hero get to the happily ever after? You get to the story, and then it's and then the show is over. But then we want to see another movie. We don't want the show to be over. So we go watch something else, and we go through it again, and we go with the play, and we go with the and we feel it because we have a body, and we can taste pleasure, and we can taste pain, and we can taste and experience fear, and we can experience this point of view and that point of view, and we can experience all these so-called divisions and everything else, and they can feel real and have a certain reality on each level of it. And the breath goes on even when we think that it's not going to, until it doesn't, And even that is part of the story. Because, how does that, really end? When we are to think that when this I ends, I ends. When I ends, does I end? And that's one of the things I learned about nature when I had that fear, and I looked at nature, and the tree said no. The tree looked at me and said, nope. Yeah.
So seeing that all of these stories that we make these stories, we create these stories. Seeing that they don't really touch who you are. That makes what you are really quite extraordinary. Really quite remarkable. And we use those gentle terms of simplicity, of gentleness. Is, even that, what power then has this mind with its old tricks got then, that can take you out of this state of being?
Yeah, it could be simple. It could say, I think you got to use the bathroom, and what will people think? Or no, I think I got to use the bathroom. How am I going to hold it this whole time? Yeah, it could think, oh, what is someone else thinking? About me. And it can play that character as well. And feel it. And it doesn't make any difference, really. So there is something kind of maddening about the whole thing. It can feel that way.
especially when you first step into, you know, this meditation practice and you have ideas about what will happen, you know, oh, my life's going to be all hunky-dory from now on,
Yeah.
you know. Anything, anybody says any words to me, I'll just, just float through. But the reality is, it's the old ways, the old fan is still going. But if we see the nature of the fan, then even the fan going won't really be a problem anymore. The old thoughts, they will come and they will go because that's the mechanism, that's the conditioning. But just to see it in our everyday life. I think that's the meditation. Meditation is being. And it can occur, and it is occurring in all heres and nows. It's covered over by this mind. It's not something you have to search for. It's not something you have to look for. And I think one of the reasons we talked with Danielle today, it was the way of being, a tradition in many of these ancient cultures around the world. Hear them speak about being at one with the earth and with nature. Blessings to the ancestors. Stories passed down. Healing yourself from within. All of these are part of the, once you know who you are, consciousness expressing itself in the human body, then yes, things still come up. You don't go blasé, but now I think now you don't have to distance yourself anymore. You can be fully engaged in it, and at the same time see the story.
Yeah. Yes. So, shall we end on that? Because I got to use the bathroom. I think we're at an hour and a half.
Does not time fly? Yes. Go. You did. And then you go before. But did you have you got your glass of water there and your cup of coffee?
I'm drinking. It's a tea. It's like a chai latte.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you to Danielle Soames for sharing all the information she did with us and spending time with us. And Ron, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. And thank you to our listeners.
Thank you, everybody. And we're still learning.
Still learning.
Thank you to Danielle. And just keep on learning, Ade. Just keep it going and bring into our... It's not something we get from a book. We're living it in our lives. Let's take this into our real lives and share it with our other people.
And we are learning. 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 We are learning.
Thank you, Ade.
Thank you.
We are learning. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon.
See you.